So I'm going to go ahead and I'll be going over some of the problems, not necessarily the problems that you were assigned, but some of those as well from the 1.5 homework. So remember 1.5 is about using formulas. So I took some pictures of the textbook and put them on this document. I'm going to kind of just go over some. If there are any other problems, I guess maybe we should start that way. If anyone had any specific questions from 1.4, maybe we could start with that. So did anyone have a question from 1.4 that they were having trouble with? Okay, well, remember today at 1:30, I'll be having my office hours, and Friday at 1:30, I'll be having my office hours. So if you need some help and you want some individual help on anything, you can come visit me then. The link is on our Google Classroom page. All right, I am gonna look at these problems that are from 1.5. and just do a few of them. So some of these are pretty straightforward, finding perimeter and area. For number 10, that's just a matter of actually using the number here and finding that out, whereas on 11 and 12, those are both going to be left in terms of x. So for 11, our perimeter, again, it's a rectangle, so we could just add up all the sides if we want to, but since the point here is to use formulas, I'm going to go ahead and use a formula. I'm going to say my perimeter is 2 width plus 2 length. So these two measurements being my width and length. It might have been the other way. It might have been 2 length plus 2 width, but that's the same thing either way. So in this case, my perimeter is going to be 2 times x plus 6 plus 2 times x. And then it's a matter of simplifying this out. So our perimeter here is 4x plus 12. Can't really do anything other than that. There's no units that are given to me, so I just have to kind of assume that's whatever the units would be. Nothing more I can do to simplify it. I can't solve for x or anything. And then really quickly, the area. Remember, area is length times width. So these two measurements are my length and my width. So the area is just going to be x plus 6 times x. In this case, I need to distribute that x to both parts here. So I end up with x squared plus 6x for the area. Pretty straightforward. Obviously, keeping our answers in terms of x, not doing anything about actually solving for value of x. So that's all we get. Remember to type your name in the chat if you haven't already done that, especially people just joining. I'll go ahead and do number 12 because there's part of it that I really want to look at. Clear this for just a second. Okay, I'm clearing these, so if you need them, I am recording this so you can look back at that. So for a triangle, for perimeter, it's just a matter of adding all the sides. So our 3 sides are 5x, 8, and 4x. So for the perimeter, we just want to add up all our sides. Those are all sides of the triangle, right? So combine like terms, pretty straightforward. We get 9x plus 8 being our perimeter. But for the area, it's really important to have the base and the height, and the base and the height always have to be making a right angle with one another, which is why we have this right here. This is going to be the height that we need to make sure to use. And it's perpendicular, or it makes a right angle with the base right here. Notice the kind of base has been extended out a little bit. That's just so that we can kind of know where the height would be if we measured it straight up and down. Just like if you measure someone's height, you don't like You don't measure it at a slant. You always measure it straight up and down from the ground. So we have to kind of imagine that this triangle is sitting on the ground here, and we're measuring the height straight up and down, even though it's kind of leaning out. So when we're finding our area, we're doing 1/2 base times height. The base is 8. So 1/2 times 8 times my height, which is 3x. So multiplying these things out, I'm getting 1/2 times 8 is 4. 4 times 3 is that, so I get 12x for my area. Yeah, sorry there. The office hours link's on top. Yeah, I've had a few people do that. Keep your answer in terms of x on these types of problems. Remember, when you're finding the area of a triangle, especially triangles, this comes up a lot, that the height is at a right angle to the base. Okay, you're not wanting to use this slanted height, you're wanting to use the straight up and down height. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and clear this in the interest of kind of moving forward. Circles are kind of a big thing that we'll do periodically throughout the year in different units. So it says to use the pi key. So whatever, if you have a calculator, whatever that uses. So I'll pull up a calculator here and do it just out of curiosity what it's going to do. So let's just go ahead and find the circumference and area, and I'm just going to do the one that has the fraction in it because that seems silly. So you were assigned just to do the odd problem, so 15 would be the one that you were supposed to do. But I'm going to do 16 just to be difficult, I guess. All right, so this is the diameter. So diameter of our circle goes all the way across. So all the way across is 1/2. That's not a problem for finding the circumference. So if we're finding the circumference, remember that's going to be pi times the diameter is one way for us to find the circumference. So in this case, our circumference is going to be pi times 1/2 of a mile. Doing that calculation, I end up with the circumference is pi over 2 miles, and I could get my decimal approximation for that calculator. And I'll use the pi button just for this one. So I use the pi button there. This is what I got for pi divided by 2. I'm going to round that to the nearest tenth. So that's 1 decimal place, nearest tenth. I get 1.6. So that's 1.6 miles approximately. If we're given units, we do want to make sure to include units in our answer. So in this case, it's miles. So I did leave miles as part of my answer. And then we'll do area, and area is going to be miles squared when we do this. But for area, we need to know the radius. So the radius is going to be half of the diameter that I was given. So half of a half is 1/4. These would each be 1/4. 1/4 and 1/4 together make a half. So my radius is going to be 1/4 of a mile. And I need to know that for area, right? Because area is pi times the radius squared. So my area here is going to be pi times 1/4 of a mile squared. And I'm just going to do that in the calculator here, since that's what we're doing. And my decimal area is what I got right here. So using the calculator, 0.196. We're supposed to round again to the nearest tenth. So that's 1 decimal place. So it's around 0.2 miles squared. Remember, area is always units squared. So units to the second power. because we're squaring a unit here, or raising it to second power. So, so those are pretty straightforward. If I kept this in exact form, 1/4 squared would be 1/16, 1 over 1/16. And so I could write this as pi over 16 miles squared. This would be the exact version, or in terms of pi version, not actually getting that pi out of there, leaving it as part of my answer. Same thing, this is exact, and that's an approximation using my calculator's version of pi. And this calculator does pi as this decimal, 3.141592654. I guess that's a pretty common approximation. I was testing out all of my calculators, and they do the same one, so that's what we're going with. Any questions there? Hopefully not. I did the fraction one just because it was a little trickier. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and clear this, and we got it 43. We have 4 minutes. This time flies. All right, so these last problems, these are the ones that are a little bit tricky, where we have to use one of our formulas to solve. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do number 20, just to pick one. So the area of a triangle, area is 6.75 meters squared. The base of a triangle, so base is 3 meters. And we want to know the height. So the height is the one we're missing. And so we know our formula for area is 1/2 base times height. I can plug in all the things that I know. I can plug in my area, I can plug in my base, and the only thing I'll be missing now is my height. So when I do that, I'm just going to use the numbers. I'm not going to include the units this time. 6.75 is equal to 1/2 times 3 times the height. Multiply those together. 1/2 of 3, that's 1.5. And then I just need to divide by 1.5. So doing those calculations, I get 4.5. So my height is equal to 4.5 meters. Again, if units are there, make sure to include units with your final answer. If there are no units given, you don't need to worry about it. But this time we were talking about meters and meters squared, so I know my answer is going to be in meters. Okay. Now with the last time permitting, I want to talk about the one that was actually assigned for you guys to turn in, number 29, because that one was a bit of a tricky one. So I'm going to clear this and pull up the textbook. Maybe. Yep. Oh, oops. I have to redo this. Share the. Okay. Okay. Time is moving. Okay, so for this one, number 29, that was the one you were asked to solve. I'm going to kind of go through this quickly. Again, time. So if the height of a triangle is 3 inches less than the length of the base, so we have, I'm going to let B be my base, and then the height was 3 less. So I'm going to have B minus 3 is the height. And the area is 19 times the length of the base. So 19 times B is equal to the area. So I'm kind of defining some variables here that I can use. Notice that I'm only using a single variable. I'm only using the base. So that's important. So that now when I plug in all of this into my formula, I'm going to only end up having one variable. My only variable here is going to be b. The warning that I have for you is this is going to be a quadratic equation. So to solve it, you're going to have to factor. If you're having trouble with it, I can go a little more in depth on the in the office hours, either today at 1:30 or on Friday at 1:30. So once you get to doing this problem, try to remember this in terms of what's going on. It's number 29. This was the one you were assigned to turn in. I just wanted to give some pointers on it, just a little bit of help. Okay, it's 11:43. I don't want to make you guys late for any classes. Make sure if you haven't already to sign in, type your name into the chat. So no, a question like this won't be on the quiz because I don't necessarily expect that you guys can solve quadratic equations particularly well right now because that was probably a topic that you got shorted last year. I just kind of wanted to see what people would do with it. So do your best on this and ask me questions if you got them.